I'm Catherine White. I am the MC of this lovely weekly Friday Power Lunch, and we do enjoy bringing you this packed show with great guests and political gab that tackles big issues and brings new ideas in people. And of course, what this room loves is to go in and get into action. And we like to amplify the voice of the grassroots across Virginia and the nation as we make politics fun. So this week, we are focusing on such an important human rights issue, housing and homelessness. And, as activists, we get really focused sometimes on political action, sending a petition in, marching, protesting, and we're sometimes stuck in this world of just always being, worrying about the politics of the day. But what we find is that we need to take a pause, take a breath, look around, and we see there's a great need in our neighborhoods. And we have guests that really will bring that to focus today, what they've been doing around homelessness and affordable housing. And so, yes, as some people are thinking about this cycle bomb coming, running to the grocery store, taking care of themselves, the people in this room, I'm going to bet, are worried about what is going to happen with the storm and the people that are on the street. So today's topic is give me some shelter, homelessness, and affordable housing in the time of COVID-19. Let's welcome our guests. And I'm so excited to welcome Sarah Selvaraj-D'souza. Say your last name for me again. It's
Selvaraj.
Selvaraj, thank you.
Yep.
It's a mouthful. I love it. And what I love about life is that we got to intersect, we got to meet, and here we are.
Absolutely.
So how are you doing today? Are you ready to talk about this subject?
I am. I've had an interesting morning, so I'm definitely ready. We were out there with some homeless folks. So yes, makes it very personal.
Well, we'll learn about Reston Strong. So we're so glad, Sarah, you're here. Our audience is just going to love you. And then also Kerrie Wilson, CEO of Cornerstones. How are you, Karen? Hey, you got a new background. That looks great.
Other than my living room, it's so much fun to be here and just to see the way you all lift up issues that are so important, but also make it fun and give us, something to take away and get involved. So thanks for having me.
Yeah, we're really happy you're here too, Kerrie. And we will bring up another person that you know very well and work well with, Michelle Krocker, Director of Northern Virginia Affordable Housing Alliance. Hello, Michelle.
Hello, good afternoon. Thank you so much for having me.
Tell us about your background. We were noticing what you have on the wall.
Yeah, this is my office, my little office, and these are rugs from a Navajo reservation that I purchased in New Mexico probably 30 years ago. So, yeah.
Love it. Well, we look forward to hearing from you today. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Oh, and also next up, Joey Lindstrom, Field Director of the National Low Income Housing Coalition. Joey, how is DC? You're home today, working from home. How are you doing?
Oh, DC's great. I'm great. Thanks so much for having me. And thanks for selecting as your topic today, this essential issue. This is really, really great.
I know you're passionate about it. And when just looking at what your organization does, it's huge.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we'd like to make tools available for everybody to take action on homelessness and housing solutions.
Yeah. So thank you, Joe. It's a real pleasure for the room to get to know you. And I know you're passionate about this issue. And lastly, a new org that we've just been introduced to, Freedom Virginia. We have Rachel Bossacare. Hello, Rachel.
Hey, everybody. Thank you so much for having me.
No problem. And, we had to put you in your car. You were inside and then we couldn't hear you, but you look great. And we're really interested to hear about what you guys are doing on policy for affordable living. So thank you for being here. Yeah. All right. So, it's always the news. I love to tell everybody in the room that we have great YouTube content. So make sure that you follow us on that, subscribe to it, put your thumbs up on our videos. And of course, we love if you follow us on Twitter and subscribe to our Badass Briefing and our Tuesday Tidbits, because they're just really in-depth and awesome. And you won't miss a thing. You don't have to do anything but read. And how easy is that? And of course, stick around for the after chat. As we say, that's where it all happens, is at after 1 o'clock. And then, we always like to tell people, please support our show, become a patron. It's just very easy. You just click on that link in there and then support us for $5, $10, $25 a month. You can make sure our show stays around. So we appreciate always that support and love. So thank you very much. And we are doing the closed captioning, and some people complain about it, but guess what? You can do something about it. You can just use your toggle and just choose not to participate in that. It's pretty easy. You just go to the settings on your phone and toggle the option for closed captioning off. We want to make sure everybody's happy. So just go ahead and do that for yourself. Okay, my favorite part too is to bring up the team so you all know who's working hard behind the scenes. Stair Ambassador Buzz Robbins, Show Wizard, Heidi Dragnoff, Twitter Guru, Rosemarie is back. Shortstop is here, and Josilia Delicia, Show Dazzler, and she is the co-MC. And how is everybody feeling today?
Good, ready to go.
Good, awesome. Well, Delicia, let's talk some ERA. We went down and we did some marching. Robin, why don't you show what we did yesterday on our school trip? If you guys remember last week, we had Carol Jenkins, Michelle Kalin, the first Solicitor General, and here we are downtown. Carol Foy's on the stage making a big speech because, folks, you know, it is time. So what are you thinking, Jaleesa, on this subject?
Listen, I had an absolute blast yesterday in Washington, D.C. for the ERA. I am so glad that I was able to share that moment with all of you and all those amazing, powerful women and gentlemen, because we did have gentlemen that joined us yesterday. Absolutely, right? For women's rights. It was an absolutely beautiful event. We did march all the way to DOJ, and I did it in heels. Now, those heels, I don't know where they are. I don't ever want to put them on again, but I did it in heels. And just to show them how badass we really are and how serious we are about making the ERA the 28th Amendment to our Constitution. So yes, shout out to yesterday and to everybody that came out. We had a good time, and we're hoping to, listen, keep this momentum going, keep the pressure going, because we are at the finish line for the ERA, and we will make sure to see that through.
Yeah, I noticed, the hills are great. You're Show Dazzler for a reason. And it was awesome. And yes, we did walk all the way to the DOJ and did some great cheers and chants to get noticed. And we did notice finally that President Biden spoke up, really kind of pushing and called on Congress to get that, enshrine the Equal Rights Amendment. And we're asking the archivist, David, put us in there. But you know what we did also? We printed our own Constitution. So we do have that. And today we'll be doing some spins for people to win the printed Constitution where the 28th Amendment is in it.
Yep.
Woo-hoo.
And I have two of them. I love it. You guys stay tuned. You guys are going to love to have one of these because the 28th Amendment is there. Yeah. And guess what? Gen Z is not going to take it, right? They're on fire and they're leading on these issues of equality and racial justice. On these, they're not afraid to speak up. And so we wanted to kind of highlight them today, some tips of the day and what you can do about what's happening in your world.
All right, guys, the Republican governor of Virginia has a new email hotline where you can send tips in case a teacher is caught teaching about racism in school. So whatever you do not send fake tips. That would be immature.
So in case you missed it, Glenn Youngkin, the governor of Virginia, super Trumpy dude, recently made a tip line to report CRT being taught in Virginia schools. This is the email, and it would be really devastating if people blew it up. But moreover, it'd be really bad if someone made an auto-generated email thing where you just click the button and it makes an email. And it'd be really bad if it included an actual high school that was in Virginia and some random quote or a song lyric, and then all you have to do is hit send. That'd be really, really, really bad. So whatever you do, don't generate an email using this link. Don't do it. Don't do it.
We're not gonna take it. No, we're gonna take it. We're not gonna take it anymore. We're not gonna take it. No, we ain't gonna take it. We're not gonna take it anymore.
I just love this generation. Forget about trying to hold them down. So we just want to make sure people understand what's going on. And that's the tip of the day, the ERA, and getting busy, especially today about talking about an important subject. But before we do that, we need to hand it over to Louisa Borowski. Hello, Louisa Borowski, and you are the leader of the Virginia Grassroots Coalition. And you have, I'm sure, an important news update for us on what is happening.
Well, what is happening in Richmond is always the question in January. And the answer is we are just completely absorbed in our legislative session. And we have crossover, which means in 2 weeks, less than 2 weeks, which means we've got to get through all of these thousands of bills that have been sent in. And I will say, we are relearning the process of having Republicans in charge of the House. It is a bit of a mess. You have no idea when the meetings will be. They get canceled, they get rescheduled. Sometimes your bills show up when you think they will. A lot of the times they don't. So bear with us because we are still trying to get calls to action out. But I will say from one side of the General Assembly, it has been a little bit more difficult to anticipate what is happening, meaning some of these calls to actions are coming out, right at the last minute, but that does not mean that our legislators don't need to hear from you. So I'm going to share a couple of our top calls that are going to be important for this upcoming week. The first one is we are trying to reform the recall process in Virginia. This is something that we know has been plaguing our school boards. It has been plaguing our Commonwealth attorneys. We want to make it so it's a process that makes sense. If you actually read the legislation currently, it is not well defined. It can be misinterpreted and it can be used to really distract people from the work that they're supposed to be doing. So we want to make this a more robust process, and that is what that bill will do. There's also a bill that is coming up, and it's related to the topic of today, but it is around protecting families from utility shutoffs during a crisis. So we know that this was an issue during COVID. It continues to be an issue during COVID, but also during other types of emergencies. And we want to make sure that this is something that is in our legal code. There are also some important bills that are going to be about stopping campaign donations from Dominion. As we know, Dominion rules Richmond through their campaign contributions, and we want to make sure that that finally is something that gets addressed. And then the last one that I'm going to include are a bill that we want to oppose. It's it's preventing schools from requiring masks, right, to stop COVID-19. We keep hearing this. We know that our local school districts are pushing back, but the Senate has a bill to consider next week, and we want to make sure that our senators are hearing from us and know we expect them, and to be honest, some of the Republicans, to vote no on this bill. It is a public health issue. So I'm going to put all of those links. Dennis Orsinger, who is on this call, is our amazing webmaster for the Virginia Grassroots Coalition and has set up all of these as one-click call to actions. She has tirelessly been working on this. I am sure she is already burnt out and we still have weeks to go. So, thank you, Dennis. And I'm going to put the link to our website where even more of these calls to action will be located.
Let's the tip of the day. It's my thing. Today's tip of the day, Louisa. And I think the tip is 1, join the coalition.
Yep. For sure.
For sure, because if you want to just talk a minute about that, the coalition, and then also please click on that link right now and just see how awesome Dennis is. I mean, she built this from scratch. This has been going on for years. So, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. So the first thing about joining the coalition is a great clearinghouse for all the great grassroots work that's happening in Virginia. So if you want to know what's happening outside of your community, or you want to know how you can get active and be helpful in Richmond during this session, or how we're going to be active during the upcoming elections, these are all great reasons to join the coalition. So I'll put my information in the chat. You can join the coalition by emailing me and you'll get on our listserv. And also the website that Dennis is in charge of, you can sign up your organization to be listed there as well. And our next meeting is going to be not this Sunday, but the following Sunday. So I think that's the 6th of February. And that is when we are going to be talking crossover and figuring out which bills made it through the first half of this crazy gauntlet of the General Assembly, and what can we really focus on to try to push over the final hurdles. So we are very excited.
In the chat, do you have to be an organization to join?
You can join our listserv, the email that I send, if you are an individual. So individuals absolutely can join. We want you to be involved and informed. If you have an organization, that's what can be listed on the website. but you can join as an individual. So I will put my contact information in there, and please do sign up for the email that goes out, unfortunately, a couple times a week now because of all the calls to action.
Well, I noticed I was on a call the other day, and they said that on a certain bill opposing Andrew Wheeler, that they received over 2,000 emails. And I'm going to say it's thanks to a lot to this new call to action. So thank you, Louisa. That's
absolutely.
Awesome.
And this is
Dennis.
Yes. And it's so great to have it so easy to do. So that is all thanks to Dennis.
I like that. We don't want it's hard enough being an activist. This is nice, and Dennis made our Friday power lunch. So thank you, Dennis. And what a better way to segue. Thank you, Louisa. Make sure you make a nice thing of kielbasa this weekend. I know as a Pittsburgh person, a storm coming. When my dad stayed with me one time, honest to God, we were going to get 3 feet of snow. And he just got in his white old Cadillac that he bought in Youngstown, Ohio, and drove up to the store to buy halushki noodles, kielbasa. And it didn't, it was just like, that's what you do in a storm.
You need to have that fat stored up, absolutely. So for sure.
Guy that had to walk through storms, and he's like, he needs the noodles and the kielbasa. So I love it. So enjoy that. And what a better way to set up our guest, Sarah from Reston Strong. And you're the founder of Reston Strong. And so good to see you in the room. And look, Fairfax County, sometimes we're caught up. We have a wealthy county, and Reston and Herndon is just an awesome, really awesome community. And tell us the story. You're so dedicated, incredible passion around this subject. Tell us more. Tell us how you got, the founder of Reston Strong, how this all started. Kind of get us a little on your journey.
Sure, very quickly. It's a long story, but I'll try to cut it short.
Don't worry.
I just love the energy in the room, and I just want to shout out to the Gen Z. That's the folks that push us with Reston Strong as well.
Nice.
It's right there, calling for action, not taking no for an answer. So we started March 2020 when COVID hit and we all turned into zombies and went into our cocoons. A bunch of us got together and said, how can we help our neighbors? Like, even if it's a small part, what role can we play? And it started out with contact-free donation pods for a lot of our partner organizations like Cornerstones, food pantries, and other groups, because the in-person donations had stopped. So we wanted to provide an avenue where people can still feel safe donating. From there, we've gone, all over the place, and here we are today. Our only limitation is Reston. So we get involved with anything in Reston as long as it's a basic human need. It's helping a neighbor. Our motto, I don't know if you see it behind me, it's love thy neighbor, no exceptions. Trust me, it's hard. It's hard sometimes, the no exceptions part. But it's the, changing the world one neighbor at a time. And it's just helping out, whether it's a social worker, a kid in school that broke their glasses and needs glasses for school the next day, or it's one of our neighbors in tents who are going through sort of mental health crisis and helping them with that process.
Well, what I like to do is show that you made a little video for us to kind of give a little taste of several things, and then we'll circle back to I think what happened with this discovery is that you didn't know there were tents. When you went looking, you found people. So Robin, get that video up so people can see this little segment.
My name is Danielle Zuck. I'm a volunteer with Reston Strong here in the Reston, Virginia area. I help with our Neighbors in Tents campaign. This is a campaign that we do every Friday to people that live in shelter and tents out in the Reston area.
Go. Hi, I'm Melanie. I work here at Ben & Cherries, but I'm also an admin of the Reston Foodies group. And here at Ben & Cherries, right now we're collecting food items for neighbors in our tent. So if you want to come by, drop off some goods, it has to be a top pop, so easy access. Come on by, drop something off. We'll give you 10% off of every ice cream you purchase.
Hi guys, Michael Schaefer from Reston Strong. Just started volunteering here last week, so this is my second week, and we deliver food to a number of the tent villages that are here in Reston. So we prepare the foods, we bag them all, and then we show up about 1 o'clock every Friday, and we go to 4 different sites within Reston and we drop off the food. And as you can see by my gloves, it's really, really cold out here today, so imagine how cold it is for people who are in tent.
I love it. The love just comes through.
You know, it's grassroots when the audio is all over the place, right?
I loved it. I know that was my favorite part of it. I'm like, this is the craziest audio. I love it. It is grassroots. But and I think the point is, though, you can see that there's the love in this community. But the interesting fact is, tell us the story. I mean, I think when we talked about how you started, but not even knowing there were tents in your area, and then tell us about that. And then it's interesting. I mean, how do you find these people? How does this all work?
So there's a little, it's always a human factor in anything Reston Strong does, where, it's all about the neighbors. Our first interaction with homelessness was with a man named Mark. And if you're from Reston, there's no way you don't know Mark. Mark was a constant fixture outside the Target. He was a vet. He was homeless. Yes, he was panhandling, but he was the most cheerful, positive, kind soul you could ever run into. Mm-hmm. And when COVID happened, sort of our first COVID winter, the 2021 winter, a bunch of neighbors got together and put up Mark at a hotel. And that was our first sort of wake up moment, going, okay, how can we help? And we stepped in and said, we'll pick up the tab. If there are any gaps, we'll help with groceries. And sort of that story ended there. Right? Then it was spring and the weather was better. And like we do, we got distracted with other things and other initiatives. August 2021 was our sort of come to Jesus moment when we found out Mark passed away. Mm. That left us as an organization with questions going, why didn't we follow through? Why did we not see, the entire 360 of this? And when we did our Thanksgiving meals drive, actually, one of our volunteers who's spearheading this, she's on the call here today, Danielle, and her husband drove around Thanksgiving morning when we're all talking about football and
right.
turkey. The two of them were freaking up and down all over Reston trying to find folks in tents, getting them warm meals, getting them that Thanksgiving turkey. And we realized we found a lot more than we thought existed. And that was when we realized, okay, this needs to be a bigger initiative, a more long-term process, as well as something short-term. The immediate, every Friday, like right now when I'm talking to you here, Michael, who you saw in the video, is out there getting groceries to the tents. So we're there every week, helping them right now, but also talking about long-term solutions.
It's interesting because you talk about then how it evolves, then you really see that the different needs. And, I know that sometimes, you went from helping people, what I'm going to say is different partners, then you started to realize that you couldn't do this on your own. So tell us about that part of the journey, how you do work with other like Cornerstones or other organizations. I know we'll get to that more, but talk about that need. And I know that we have another story too about the young girl that recently was in the news and how these stories kind of all inform your work.
We've always relied on our partnerships. And one of our goals setting out is we did not want to duplicate services.
Right.
But if there is a gap that we can fill, we want to be that fill gap. We want to be that bridge that helps the person in need get the resources they need. And do bring up the story about the young girl. We have similar partnerships with the Reston Station. They have a new police chief. I was with Rex this morning. Wonderful human being, wants to do the right thing. They have our number and can call us at any time if they find a person out in the cold who is refusing to go to a shelter or to a hypothermia center. And we got a call Monday, last week, not this week, about a young woman, 22 years old, out in the cold, no jacket, not wanting to go to a shelter, but willing to take help and go somewhere else. And that story with the young girl was still following through, supporting her. It's gone all over to DC, Maryland, and now she's in Maryland getting help. But when that happened and we realized quickly that there are other needs, my first email was to Kerrie, who's on the call from Cornerstones.
Right.
And I have to tell you, this is at 4 a.m. I'm sending out an email to her and Gwen from Walter's office, I think, who's also here today. And both of them by 6, 7 o'clock had sent me a long list of here are resources, here are our folks you can talk to. And those partnerships are what help us be
Right.
effective.
No, I think it's so important because I mean, I just love that how it's grown and that you've been able to be, you're super flexible. Sometimes bigger organizations aren't. So you feel that need, that immediate need, and nothing is too small. So like you said, from glasses to the story I've heard you talk about the winter coat where, you just really respond to a young lady needed a winter coat. Nothing was working for her. And you just take it to the next level. And now, and finding her that coat, and having somebody, you have some generous people that do help you. And, so that's just an amazing story for the, and then having that flexibility. So I just think that's just so important,
We're so lucky. We are so lucky with our partners, our donors, our Reston Strong volunteers. It's just been, you put a call out for something and within minutes, we've got hundreds of jackets coming our way.
That's amazing. I mean, that's such generosity. So why don't we bring up, and we'll do like a roundtable, since I think this is the best way to really talk about this issue with this local issue, more of a county and regional perspective. We have, the next guest, we have Kerrie here, the CEO of Cornerstones, and we also have Michelle Krocker. If you can let my team will put them up on the screen. Here they come. So I know this is just a passionate group of people. We talked the other day, and just how you all work together. It is awesome. But Kerrie, let's talk about Cornerstones after listening to Sarah. I mean, you guys, this partnership, tell us first about your organization. You've been addressing these safety issues for years, for more than 50 years. Is that correct? You have a big anniversary coming up.
Yeah, we just celebrated that, but sort of listening to Sarah, to me, it just brings it back home because people like Sarah and Reston Strong, those were the folks that founded Cornerstones. It was then Reston Interfaith. The first congregations that said, this new town of Reston, how do we build this inclusive community where people can live, work, play, and serve? And Sarah, that model. And so we have been, building on that energy ever since. My favorite story, and I'll just tell it, I know we have, it's that I think all of you know Senator Janet Howell, another badass woman who is, just doing incredible things down in Richmond, but she was on our board. And she started her political career as a PTA president and was one of the folks that helped organize with Reverend Embry Rucker to build and demand that a homeless shelter be built in Reston because we had begun to see the need. And so that's the kind of energy that we need today because these issues are getting harder and tougher.
Harder. I mean, 50 years you're talking this organization, and it definitely is a cornerstone. And before we pitch it over to Michelle, tell us more about, the many ways you do advocate and your services that you provide. I mean, there's just such a long list, but tell us a little bit more about that.
I mean, we, again, started around housing advocacy and built the first affordable housing in Reston. It's not a secret, but Michelle Krocker actually ran our housing department when I first came here. And so, there's a lot of connection here. But we learned, even in a planned community like Reston, that there are always going to be needs. And as the community grew and Northern Virginia grew, cost of living, underinvestment in things like affordable housing became an issue. So for us, it's about the dignity and homes for all. Shelter is great, but I don't want to raise my children there, and nobody should have to. We address hunger, food insecurity, which we can end hunger in our community through the kind of work. But also a lot of our focus is looking at issues of opportunity. How can we change things for that next generation, for the kids who've lived in poverty? And I think we're all so aware of that. Michelle's organization has really brought those issues to light in terms of equity and housing opportunity here in Fairfax County. But we serve 16,000 people each year.
Wow.
You know, that people don't, I think there has been. I heard it when I first came here 20 years ago. What do you mean there are people experiencing homelessness in Reston? They couldn't imagine in this wonderful place to live. And so our work has been both behind the scenes with rental housing in every established community where people can raise their families, to other work, and now through advocacy.
Yeah, definitely. And your organization, it provides like such a strong safety net. I mean, just look at the list of the things you do. I mean, from legal assistance to help with childcare, and obviously a big one, the physical and mental health and well-being and all that. So talk about that. Let's talk about the need to focus on prevention and long-term solutions.
Yep. And that's it. I think COVID-19 brought home to us, even before the pandemic, so many families in our community are struggling. And I think the pandemic opened our eyes as to when people are losing jobs and income, sitting there, even within a moratorium on evictions, the fear of the mounting debt that they might have and losing their home. We do that all the time, but we know that while we can help one person, one family, we have to focus on those long-term needs. With Fairfax County, great partner, we set a goal in 2008 to prevent and end homelessness, and the tools we have, we're very proud. We've reduced homelessness in this county by 46%. And in the region, we have the largest number of people experiencing homelessness other than in DC. So the tools that we put in place, prevention, helping people from becoming homeless in the first place, but also the key, which is just providing housing, building more housing, preserving housing, and that's the key.
The house, it is the key. Like you said, it is the cornerstone of that, and it is a huge issue. So let's get Sarah. Sarah and Kerrie are working in the trenches of real deep advocacy on all these issues. Michelle, tell us about the Northern Virginia Affordable Housing Alliance, and just it's not an isolated problem. So tell us more about this face of homelessness, about the policy that you work on to try to address it. Give us a background of your organization.
Okay, thank you. I just want to salute Sarah and Kerrie, the wonderful work that they do. They are truly the folks on the ground that are really helping vulnerable, our neighbors who are homeless, vulnerable people in the community. And that is the tough work. What we really focus on is basically systems change. Why is it that in a county as wealthy, arguably one of the wealthiest counties in the country, why do we have homelessness? Why do we have people who are food insecure? Why do we have thousands of families who are one paycheck away from being homeless? And so Kerrie talked about the strides that Fairfax has made. And by the way, I want to just say that this is not unique to Fairfax County, that all of the counties in Northern Virginia that we serve, over 6 of them, are challenged with these same issues, and we are all struggling with this. So last year, the point in time survey that counts our homeless population in Fairfax County showed that we had 1,222 people who are homeless. Now, as Kerrie and Sarah know very well, that number is a gross underestimate because HUD really controls the definition of who can be considered homeless. So we know that it's a much larger number than that. And it is a significant number that many people in our community are freezing outside and have no place to go. What I think we need to also remember is and I wrote this down here, 417,000 households in Fairfax County, 10% or over 42,000 households only earn $50,000 or less in a year. That is not enough to afford rent for a 2-bedroom apartment, to afford food, childcare, transportation. So these are the people who have what we call housing insecurity, who are rent burdened, and who are that one paycheck away from being homeless. And so the preventative measures that Kerrie works on at Cornerstones and other organizations are so critical to keeping those people from falling into a situation where they actually become homeless. So we work on policies and on advocacy that helps us, as Kerrie said, build more housing. That is the elegant solution to all this, right? People are homeless, people are housing insecure. The solution is to build more housing and to make sure that that housing is affordable. And there are ways that we can do that. And I'm happy to talk about that if we want to.
No, yes, I think it's obviously, I know that Joey is here from the low income housing, the national view of this. And I think we'll probably get into that as well, because this is an issue that hasn't always, like he had talked about to me, not always been here. But the pandemic has made your work harder, I'm assuming. And so when I'd like to we're getting up on time, but just if each of you want to talk about that part of it and the sense of COVID really making it much worse, and also addressing structural sort of inequities and racism in your work. I know it seems like to me that's a center of your work, addressing those structural racism and from equity and so on. And also mental illness and addiction, these issues. And they all, so yes, we need housing. And then it seems like we have all these other issues, mental health issues that need to be addressed. So maybe we can just do a round robin and talk about that in our last wrap up. Sarah, do you want to?
Okay, go ahead, Sarah.
Sure. You're spot on, Catherine. It's the tying all of these to the addiction issues or the mental health issues. And there's always a chicken and egg situation. What came first? Were they homeless first, or did the addiction come first? And you never know. But it's always the trouble for me, or the mind-boggling piece is it's looked at as a you problem. Yep. You're a drug addict. You're a junkie. And we need to change that and flip that narrative and make it's in us. We as a community need to come together and help you. And just with COVID, all of us realize, I'm sure there are over 100 on this call, how many of us have a therapist? How many of us have had that call with a shrink or, your favorite aunt or a friend or coffee with the girls? Yeah. And imagine somebody with an existing mental health diagnosis. And now we're expecting them to get resources for themselves while dealing with and battling with mental health, which we know now is a disease. It's not something you can snap out of or, oh, you're so much luckier than the folks in Africa living in poverty. It doesn't work that way. Right. So just one point somebody mentioned in chat, simple thing, if we looked at how homelessness has changed with COVID, couch surfing. How many of us have, crashed on a friend's couch?
Right.
That option was taken away. So,
and Michelle had made that point when we talked, Michelle, when you said that the face of the homelessness and the paycheck to paycheck and the families. What is your last wrap up you'd really like to get across?
Me?
Yeah, Michelle.
I think we have to look at the data. And one of the things we did was create a map that showed where rent relief was going. And it also looked at the race of those households. Mm-hmm. And we know that COVID disproportionately impact Black and Latino households. They are our essential workers. They are the ones who are out powering our local economy. They are the ones that didn't have the luxury, if you will, from working at home like many of us did. They are also the ones who pre-COVID were living in overcrowded conditions because of the cost of housing. So the spread was much greater. So it was a situation that wasn't caused by COVID, but COVID revealed to many who have not been working in this field what our housing crisis really looks like in the community.
Yeah, and how people really live. This is not a way to live. It's not sustainable, and it causes an amazing amount of stress on people. And so, in some ways, COVID had that, in a sense of a silver lining, to bring up these issues, how we could talk about them. And I'll give Kerrie the last word, because I know that, I was reading about Cornerstones and about saying you can't go back to normal. You had quoted President Obama's words on that, that everybody we got to get back to normal, but no, getting back to normal is not where we want to go with this.
And I think it's this is the chance, and a show like this and the energy that it's creating is how do you get involved locally when Supervisor Alcorn is looking at what we're going to do here in Reston to provide more affordable housing, whether it's at the state level, and I'll put a link to Virginia Our Way and other wonderful sites that help track bills or check in with Michelle or Cornerstones. But we see the need. People become homeless for so many reasons, and some suffer from mental illness and substance abuse. And for many, it's simply that one crisis too many, that paycheck. We can address that. As Michelle said earlier, it's really about housing, and mostly the housing justice piece is when we look at 9% of our county's population are African-American, and yet overrepresented in our homeless shelters, our juvenile justice system, in so many places. It reminds us that we have to look at how are we zoning, how are we opening up in terms of fair housing and who is protected. It allows us to look at this beyond just that immediate need for shelter, but how can we do more to give every family a choice? So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for all your work that you guys do. And it like you said, we don't want to see people living in tents, or keep handing out food and without solving these problems. And I love what you all bring, Sarah, just that hands-on touch, that community touch, that focus, and Kerrie, just that advocacy and really dealing with all the different levels which organization does to help. And Michelle, people love data and research, and you are the premier place to go. You work with the delegates and senators, and you do a lot around policy. So please check out everybody's information here. If you want to support them or get into action, please do. So thank you all for coming. Stick around in the after chat if you have time, because I'm sure people have some questions. And if Jaleesa is in the room, let's tag her and let's bring up. I'm going to hand it over to you. I'm really excited to hear from your next guest.
Oh, absolutely. I am too. Thank you so much, Catherine, for passing the torch. Listen, I am excited, one, because as a former candidate, I'm excited to transition our discussion on housing and homelessness by moving to the national level and discussing the role of public policy and how that can play in housing and homelessness. So who better to do that than Joey Lindstrom, Director and Field Organizer for National Low Income Housing Coalition. Welcome, Joey, to the show.
Hey, thanks again for having me. Really happy to be here.
Thank you so much for joining us. Look, we can get right down to the bread and butter. We all want to ensure that everyone has accessible and affordable places to live in their communities. How is your organization tackling the issues of housing justice?
Well, I think we go about it in several different ways, but the primary thing that we try to do is make sure that all of the people on this call and all of the people throughout Virginia who care about ending homelessness and who see the need for more housing affordability as an essential issue, that they assign a voice to that and then apply it to political action. Because there are so many issues that people throughout our community face, and they expect results from their elected leaders, right? When you think about healthcare or education or the environment, one of the first things you're going to do is send a letter to your member of Congress. But too often when we look at homelessness and other poverty issues, very often the solutions that people want to pursue are related to volunteerism or raising awareness, which are of course very important things. But we want to make sure that people are communicating with their elected officials about the solutions that need to happen. And in order to communicate effectively with their elected officials, one of the things that we've always done at the National Low-Income Housing Coalition, is make sure that advocates have the best data about the homelessness crisis and about the affordable housing shortage in their communities. So I just dropped a bunch of links into the chat box with some Virginia-specific data where folks can go to learn more about how in the Commonwealth of Virginia, there's currently 148,720 affordable and available homes that are missing based on what is needed. That's a shortage of almost 150,000. And you can learn that the annual household income that you would need to afford a 2-bedroom apartment at fair market rent in Virginia is $50,767 in a year, right? And then consider what a minimum wage earner must be making. So we take pride in providing this kind of data, and we also break it down county by county level. One of the data points that I put in the chat box is something we call our housing wage, where we calculate for every county and metro area zip code in the country how much a worker needs to earn in order to afford a 2-bedroom apartment in that location. So, but the final thing I'll point out is, we're not just about data. I also put in a very relevant call to action, which is related to the $150 billion that were included in the Build Back Better Act, specifically for housing solutions. This is a generational investment targeted at the lowest income people, which is where we know that the resources need to be invested. And as the bill is shrinking in renegotiations right now between Senator Manchin and the White House, there is a real threat that housing solutions might be dropped from the bill. So it's extremely important for each of you to be in touch with your members of Congress to say that housing and homelessness solutions are a #1 priority in this reconciliation bill that Congress is going to take up. So I'm sorry, I kind of answered that question in long form, but those are some of the things that we're doing to make sure that people have a sense of taking action right now and how to do so with the best information.
Right. And thank you so much, Joy, for sharing this information, because we know the importance of data, and we know that it helps people awaken into realizing the amount of houses, the amount of homelessness, and the amount of what is literally surrounding us. When you put the numbers and you put it's speaking the truth. I mean, that's what data is. So obviously, we really show a lot of gratitude to the work that your organization does. And speaking of Build Back Better, I know that you guys lobby so hard for Build Back Better. Do you think that it will pass? Like, what's your perspective and take on that?
Well, I don't know that anybody outside of Joe Manchin's brain can really give you a full prediction on what's going to happen next. I think, as I'm kind of guessing at what's going to happen, I think I would say that some bill is going to pass, right? Right. Congress knows they only get to do one reconciliation bill for the most part each year. And Joe Manchin likely has already achieved all the fame that he's trying to achieve by making sure that everyone knows he doesn't want to spend too much money. So I think whatever reconciliation bill does pass likely will pass with a different name, so that Senator Manchin can continue to assert that he blocked Build Back Better Act, but then came around to be supportive of this other idea that is perhaps similar. But the real question is how similar. Build Back Better Act was a huge bill, had lots of important priorities in it, and we loved it for the way it addressed housing solutions, right? Whatever they end up reconstituting, whatever the new package is, will be smaller overall, but we want to make sure that all of the $150 billion for housing and homelessness programs remains in that final bill. So my answer to your question is, I do think they're going to pass something. I'm not sure how big it will be, and I very much am not sure if it'll include any housing investments at all.
Right. And I think that's what I was going to ask you, like this new bill that's coming, will it include, I think that was my question that was coming in next. Will it include your housing plan and what you guys are looking forward to seeing it? So you don't know yet if it's going to include it yet?
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
I think there are a couple of things that members of Congress are making the most noise about protecting in the final bill. Right. We're seeing a lot of them talk about climate change provisions, very important, of course. We're seeing a lot of them talk about the child tax credit and so forth. We need more and more members of Congress stepping up and saying, the one thing that needs to be in this bill is housing investments, because that is a part of our infrastructure that is severely lacking. And I can tell you, as Virginians, it's certainly true that Senator Manchin is very heavily influenced by Senator Warner, right? And Senator Warner himself often can be skeptical of anti-poverty programs, and he'll say that even in public remarks sometimes. And so reaching out to Senator Warner has never been more important than it is right now. And you might hear back from Senator Warner's staff, hey, we're supportive of these housing provisions. And that's great. Talking to pretty much anyone in the Democratic caucus right now, they are supportive of the housing provisions. But we're in a moment right now where we don't need supporters, we need champions, right?
Absolutely.
We need the people who will step up and say, this cannot proceed without these housing investments, right? And we're very grateful to the many members of Congress who are supportive. But this is the moment where we need several of them to be more than just supporters and say, just as some of them are saying right now with the child tax credit, an example is, Senator Brown from Ohio, who's a champion on housing issues, recently in the press was saying, I'm going to fight for the child tax credit in this bill at any cost. Right. And, where Senator Wyden was saying, we're going to fight for the child tax credit and we're going to fight like hell for it. Right. We need more people saying things like that about housing solutions. And we're seeing some of it. Representative Jayapal from Seattle has really been stepping up in her public statements. Representative Richie Torres, who represents the Bronx in New York, has been saying a lot. And we know we're very grateful for the advocacy that has gotten us to this point. We know we have the support of a lot of the leaders who are negotiating this bill. But on their long list of priorities, is housing number 4? Is it number 37? Is it number 1? That's what we don't know. And that's what we're really working to change. So it's a little bit of an interesting advocacy moment, because often we're saying, can you support this? Here, what we're saying is, we're glad you support this. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Now get it over the finish line, right?
Right.
And it's that last point where we really need people stepping it up in Congress right now.
Right. Well, thank you so much, Joey. Thank you so much for sharing this information with us. We do, like you said, we need champions. We need people that are going to take it across the finish line. And housing, housing needs to be priority. And we all know that. And we need people that are going to be very vocal about that, stand 10 toes down for that. So we truly keep doing the work that you're doing, because that advocacy and the work that all of you guys are doing is really what's going to push us over that finish line to make sure that it is priority. Even with this new bill coming, we want to make sure that it includes it in there. So thank you so much for your work. I'm pretty sure we're drop whatever you
say something to Joey real quick.
And I know Catherine wants to.
I always have something to say.
Catherine, come on.
I talked to Joey. He said to me, this has not always existed, homelessness.
Oh, yeah.
And I know we don't have time to go in it. If you stay in the after chat, maybe you can talk a few minutes. But just in the sense, I'll just say this statement. We tend to invest. These folks look at building bridges and roads, but we need to invest in people.
Right.
This is the problem. Like, homelessness needs so many different investments, and the Build Back Better tries to really get at a lot of those pieces. So thank you for that. And I think we just need to start looking at as the whole person. Life is expensive, and people aren't making enough money to afford it. And we don't want people on the street. So what the heck are we going to do about it? So thank you.
It really comes down to the integrity and character of who's representing us. It really does come down to that. And as you representing us, housing is priority to all of us. This is an epidemic, and this is priority to all of us. These are our neighbors. These are our communities. So yeah, it really does. And we really have to start holding the standards. We need to turn up the notch and hold the standards higher for the people representing us. Absolutely. And Joey's going to get that done.
Joey. All right, Joey. Well, Joey,
thank you for coming.
Jaleesa, you could hang in. It's time for a station break. We know we're running, us, we love a great Friday. We're glad you're all here. I love to see everybody in the room. We have some new faces in the room, so welcome. So we have a Patreon subscription. If you like our show, you like what you're hearing every week. So please become a patron. And also, I don't know if we have any new patrons, let us know, Robin. And we have some great things coming up. We want to take a little station break. And Jaleesa, we have this, what the heck is the Virginia Dems reorganization anyways? For some people in the room, this may not be of interest, but right now, Virginia, the Democratic Party, we have this thing called reorganization. And many of us go like, what the heck is this? This is a great opportunity on February 5th to join us on a Zoom in the morning to learn about the party structure, reorganization, how we can bolster the party, because we definitely need new vision, new change. We need to make sure that the party grows. So this is a great way for you to understand how to get involved and have your voice be heard. Robin, do we want to do the next phase? We're also, for the show, looking for support. We always love to, we have so much content going on. We're looking for some badass activists to become content concierge. What do you think, Julie? Said this something that?
Listen, we can use all the help. I think taking all the content that we have created over the time and putting this out and educating our communities and the public of what we are providing, it is meaningful work. So we recommend that you join the team. It is a lot of fun, a lot of meaningful work, and it will keep you going and keep you motivated.
Yes, I love it because, we're looking for people that want to assist with wordsmithing, help us with emails, website content, articles, and press releases. Plus, we like to have fun. So join us and contact Robin Warner. And that's our station break. I'll give it back to you, Jalicia.
All right. Well, thank you, Catherine. And listen, we're going to wrap up the show with Organization Spotlight of the Week, because that's how we like to get down. Freedom Virginia, an organization to advance common sense solutions for all Virginia for access to good paying jobs, quality and affordable healthcare, and excellent opportunities. And who else better that is here on the show with us right now, Rachel Bostic, a grassroots mobilization director, and she's going to tell us all about it. So Organization Spotlight, Rachel, the spotlight is on you. Fill us in with what Freedom Virginia is all about and how we can get involved.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you guys again for having me. So Freedom Virginia is a pretty young organization. We really got up and running in the summer of 2020, which was a great time to be starting a nonprofit, definitely. But we're fighting for economic equity across the Commonwealth. So in particular, we're fighting for three main issues. Louisa actually kind of touched on this earlier. We are fighting super hard against Dominion Energy's rate increases. And just this week, they shot down HB 839, which would have limited some of those increases. So we were super sad to hear about that, but we are currently supporting the bill to keep them from being able to donate to campaigns as often. So we're really excited about that one. We're also fighting to lower prescription drug costs. Right now we have SB 376 in the state Senate that we're really excited about on that front. And then we're fighting for paid sick days for all of Virginians' workers. Last year, we won a big battle that allowed us to get 30,000 home health care workers across the state of Virginia paid sick days. But we're not going to stop on that front until every Virginian worker has access to a standard of paid sick days.
Absolutely. That's amazing. Keep going. Keep telling us about Freedom Virginia.
Awesome.
I don't even want to interrupt you. I'm just intrigued. Like this is extremely meaningful work. Good for you guys for the work that you're doing.
So we do this in three main ways. We collect stories around these issues from local Virginians. We share those with the press. We share them with legislators. We put them on all of our social medias. We try to really blast those everywhere that we can. We want to put a face to these issues.
Right.
And we want to make sure that Virginian legislators know that people are struggling. Last year, 47% of Americans said that they thought that cost of living increases were the single biggest threat to financial stability.
Wow.
So we're working super hard to make sure that our legislators know that. We're also creating a coalition of small business leaders to apply economic pressure to legislators. So we meet with small business leaders, we talk to them about these policy pushes, and then we get them to apply some pressure to their legislators, because we all know that legislators think in terms of money, and we want to make sure that our money is speaking.
Absolutely.
And
sharing testimony as far as like allowing people to follow the stories of people. Our communities here in Virginia is so powerful. I've done work in that aspect as far as passing law and legislation by utilizing testimony. So I know the powerful impact of that. I mean, do you think that what's your perspective as far as, because it works, so what has been your journey like as far as using the power of the people and following their stories? I know it has a personal impact on yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. I think our entire team takes these stories very personally.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to hear sometimes and to know that people are out there struggling in this way, but I think it's important for us to hear it, and I think it's important for us to amplify it.
Like, give me a quick example of a story that you've heard that you think has the power to push our legislators where they, with the decisions that need to be made.
Yeah, absolutely. Last year, I spoke to a woman who lives, I'm going to butcher this, I'm so sorry, Norfolk.
No, you got it.
And I come from a restaurant industry background, and she was talking about the importance of paid sick days in the restaurant industry. And I don't think we think about this as often, maybe more now that we're living in the middle of a pandemic, but so many restaurant workers go to work sick. So many people that touch the food that we eat, that touch the silverware, that brings that food to our mouths. So many restaurant workers go to work sick, and it's not because they're malicious. It's because they have to choose between working that shift and getting the money to pay their bills and staying home and being healthy. And so she talked about how everything that she touched while she was sick went on that table. And it really touched me because I thought about the times where, I mean, I would go to work with a fever of 100 degrees because I could work that shift and pay my light bill, or I could stay home and my lights would be cut off.
Right. Right. It's extremly powerful. And when you tell it in that narrative, it's really that awakening for a lot of people to really understand. So thank you so much, Rachel. I know we are dropping links in the chat, and there's ways that, our audience and anybody that's tuning in and their community can get involved. So continue doing the work that you're doing, because it's going to have a powerful impact in the long run. And we really are paving that way. So thank you for your time. And I hope you stay in the after chat, because we are overtime, and
we always are overtime.
We are always overtime, and we're going to bump it into the after chat. So Catherine, got it.
Yeah. Let's do it. So what I'm thinking is, first, I want to say thank you to all of our great guests. Please, in the room, give everybody a round of applause. Sarah from Reston Strong, Kerrie from Cornerstones, Michelle from Northern Virginia Affordable Housing Alliance, Joey Lindstrom from the National Low Income Housing Coalition, and Rachel from Freedom, Virginia. This is so good to hear, to get to know them. And I love that they'll be working down probably the General Assembly. So good for them. All right. Don't we like to have fun? We're glad you're in the room. Stay warm. And I love this conversation. And we really shows us that we have to care for each other and really love thy neighbor, as we say. So let's wrap up. Let's show the credits and stay for the after chat.